Let's talk about the Ionian mode, otherwise known as the major scale. Welcome back to this in-depth series on the major scale modes. Last week I covered the Lydian mode, and this week I'll be looking at the Ionian mode. If you missed the introduction to modes lesson I put out, I talked about how I view modes from brightest to darkest. So next up on the list is the Ionian mode, or the major scale. Before I get into this, subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss any of these mode lessons. I'm doing a deep dive lesson on each of the major scale modes, as well as backing tracks to accompany each mode, and 5 cool licks to accompany each of the backing tracks. The Ionian mode is the modal name for the major scale. Now this is an interesting one to talk about as a mode because I don't really view the major scale the same way I do the other modes. They're all technically scales, but the major scale has such a recognizable and obvious sound to it, especially in Western music where we hear it all the time. In this lesson though, I want to treat the major scale like a mode, the Ionian mode, and take the same kind of approaches I would with the other modes. So what are the specific notes that give Ionian its unique character? The most important elements in the Ionian mode are the 2 half steps, from the 3rd to the 4th and from the 7th back to the root. In C that would be C, D, E to F, G, A, B, back to C. If I play these over a drone C, you can feel where they want to resolve. The F, or the 4th, wants to move down to the 3rd E. And the B, the 7th, wants to rise up to the root C. And this is one of the first lessons I teach on the major scale, the tension and resolution of the notes. So to make this feel more like a modal sound, I can hang out on that 4th and 7th without resolving them. Now let's build a modal chord for the Ionian mode. This is kind of hard to do because everyone knows what this scale sounds like, but I'd probably do a chord like this. It has both of those half steps with the root underneath. Not sure what I'd call this, maybe like major 7 add 11 no 5th, although I could add the 5th too. Doesn't really matter, but it has those important characteristics of Ionian. A modal chord progression in this case is also tricky because your basic progressions immediately evoke that major scale sound, which I'm trying to stay clear of. If I extend the chords that come from the major scale, I can get a little bit more of a modal sounding progression, like C major 7 to D minor 7, 1 to 2, or C major 7 to the 4, F major 7. And I can drone the root underneath too. C major 7 to D minor over C, or C major 7 to F major 7 over C. The 1 to 2 progression is what I went for with the Ionian backing track that's dropping in a few days. I did A major 7 to B minor over A. This obviously has that Ionian sound without it feeling like the major scale, and I actually really like the sound of this quite a bit. Treating this scale this way takes away some of that predictability of the major scale, and it gives it a slightly darker sound. I could even take some basic major scale progressions like a 1, 5, 6, 4, and just drone that low C underneath. Still kind of sounds like a major progression, but a little bit different. I could extend some chords too, maybe like a 1, 6, 4, 6, something like that. As far as examples of this go, I've written plenty of music in major keys, but nothing I would really consider to be in the Ionian mode. As is probably quite clear from this lesson, it's not terribly common to treat this group of notes like this. Maybe the one example I have that is kind of modal is the end of my tune Prog GPT. It just hangs out on an F major 7 for like a minute and a half, and doing this without a chord change anywhere is sort of a modal approach. So there's the Ionian mode, definitely not a scale I use in a modal context very often. I'm curious if any of you have examples of the Ionian mode in action that don't just sound like the major scale. It's definitely possible to do, and it has a pretty interesting sound. Be on the lookout for the backing track and 5 licks videos for the Ionian mode dropping next week, as well as the next modal lesson on the Mixolydian mode. But if you enjoyed this lesson, subscribe, hit the bell notification, like, comment, share, and I'll see you all next week. Till then, stay proggy.